The best rust protection I have ever used costs about $3, and it comes off the back of a sheep, not out of a chemical plant. And the part that should bother you is this. That thick black rubber coating the shop sprays under your truck, the one they charge you good money for, is the very thing rotting your frame from the inside, sealing salt and water against the steel where you will never see it until the day it cracks. So how does a spoon of warm grease you heat on your own stove beat a $1,500 rust-proofing package and every can on the parts store shelf? Let me show you. My name is Lufeng. I have kept old trucks and old cars alive for more than 30 years. Not new ones. The old ones other people give up on. There is a truck in my driveway right now that is 19 years old and has driven through 19 winters of road salt. And the frame under it is clean. No holes, no flakes, no soft spot you can push a screwdriver through. And it is clean because of $3 of grease, not because I got lucky. Come look under it with me, because I want you to see the thing that fools almost everybody. I have a flashlight here. Look at the flat part of the underside. It looks fine. Painted, solid, no rust worth talking about. That is what fools people. Because the flat part is not what kills your truck. Now look up here. Inside the frame rail, up in the seams where two pieces of steel are pinched together. That is where it starts. In the pockets, in the folds, inside the box of the frame where the salt washes in and never dries out. And you find out too late. You find out when the brake line snaps on a cold morning, or a mechanic pushes his thumb through your frame like a cracker and tells you the truck is done. Not the motor, the frame, rotted from the inside out. I know because it happened to me. Years ago I had a truck I loved, and I did the thing you are told to do. I paid the shop to rust-proof it. They sprayed that thick black rubber over the whole underside. It looked like armor. I felt smart. 3 years later, it failed inspection for a rotted frame, and when I scraped that coating off, the steel under it was soaked and crumbling. A stone had cracked the shell, water crept in behind it, and the rubber held that water against the metal like a wet rag taped to the frame. Quick word before I go further. The old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book you can buy in our pinned comment below. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. So I stopped asking how to build a harder shell, and I started asking why the shell failed at all. The answer came from an old mechanic I worked next to for years, a man who had spent his life around imported cars from Japan. He did not seal metal, he fed it, and his cars did not rust. Once he showed me why, I could never look at that black rubber coating the same way again. So why does the expensive armor rot your frame while a little sheep grease saves it? Stay with me because the reason changes everything. Here's the thing he understood that the shop down the road does not want you to understand. Rust is not a paint problem. Rust is a water problem and a salt problem. Steel does not rust in dry air. Steel rusts when water and salt and oxygen sit on it together. That is the whole game. If you keep water and salt off the steel will outlive you. If you trap water and salt against the steel, no amount of paint on earth will save it. And here is what makes road salt so cruel. Salt does not just help the rust along, it refuses to dry. The brine they spray on the roads now actually pulls moisture out of the air, so the salt film left on your frame stays damp for days after the road itself is bone dry. Plain rainwater dries off and the rust rests. Salt water never fully dries, so the rust never rests. That is why a truck in the salt belt can rot through in 5 or 6 years, while the same truck in a dry state runs clean for 20. Now think about what that black rubber coating actually does. It is hard. It dries, it forms a shell. And a shell has two problems. First, a shell cracks. A stone flies up off the road and chips it. A cold snap makes it brittle and it splits. And the second it cracks, water finds the crack, wicks in behind the shell. And now you have water sitting on bare steel with a rubber lid over it so it can never dry. You have built a little greenhouse for rust. The coating that was supposed to save the truck is now the reason it dies. And the second problem is that a shell only covers what you can spray, which is the flat parts you can see. It cannot reach up inside the frame rail. It cannot creep into the pinch weld. So the one place rust actually starts is the one place the hard coating never touches. That is what people get wrong. They want their truck to feel like a tank. Thick, hard, permanent. But thick and hard and permanent is exactly the wrong idea. You do not want to seal the metal. You want to feed it. The best coating for steel is not the one that dries the hardest. It is the one that never dries at all. That is where the sheep come in. The stuff my friend used, the stuff I have used ever since, is lanolin. Lanolin is the grease that comes out of sheep's wool. It is the reason a sheep can stand in the rain all day and stay dry underneath. It is soft. It stays soft. It never fully hardens. And because it stays soft, it does three things no hard coating can do. It creeps into the tight seams, and the pinch welds all on its own. It heals itself, so when a stone nicks it, the warm grease flows back over the bare spot and closes the wound. And it soaks in and pushes the water off the steel instead of trapping water on top of it. It is not armor. It is more like a skin that keeps healing. And here's the Japanese part, since that is what pulled you in. You may have heard that used cars imported from Japan come here almost rust-free, even old ones. That is true, and there are two honest reasons for it. One, Japan does not drown its winter roads in salt the way we do over here, so their steel never takes the beating ours takes. And two, the old careful way of protecting metal over there was never to seal it under a hard shell. It was to keep it oiled, keep it fed, keep the water off with something that moves and breathes instead of something that dries and cracks. Not paint, not rubber, a living coating. That is the whole trick, and it is far older than any spray can. And it is not only old folk wisdom. The United States Navy tested this exact kind of lanolin coating on the steel rails and elevators inside their ships, the ones that live in salt air every single day. Their own report said the lanolin beat everything else they tried and stretched their maintenance from 4 times a year down to once a year, saving a small fortune. If it holds up on a warship in the ocean, it will hold up under your truck in the driveway. So let me walk you through exactly what I do, step by step, in the order I do it, with what it costs and where it goes. Step 1 is getting the right lanolin. You want raw lanolin, sometimes called anhydrous lanolin, not the little tube from the pharmacy. You want a tub of the plain stuff. You can find it online for around $14 a pound. And here is why I told you this costs about $3. That one tub will coat a whole vehicle 4 or 5 times over. So the lanolin that actually stands between your frame and the salt works out to about $3 a truck. That is the real math. $3 of sheep grease against a $1,500 shop package that fails in 3 years and takes the frame with it. Step 2 is the mix, because raw lanolin on its own is too thick to spray. It is like cold honey, so you thin it. The old original recipe, the one the famous can of fluid film was built on before the company changed hands, is simple. By volume, 3 parts lanolin, 3 parts light mineral oil, and 7 parts mineral spirits. That is it. You warm the lanolin in a can, set in a pot of hot water until it goes soft and runny. Stir in the oil and the spirits, and you have a thin amber liquid you can spray. Here's the trick most folks miss, and it is the difference between a good job and a mess. Keep it warm. Warm, it comes out fine and even, and it creeps everywhere. Cold, it comes out in clumps like foam from a can, and it will not spread. So warm the mix. Warm the can before you fill it. If your garage is cold, heat the space or wait for a warm day. Warm is everything. Step 3 is the tool, and you do not need anything fancy. A little undercoating spray gun from the hardware store runs about $25 and hooks to a small air compressor. No compressor? A simple pump-up garden sprayer, the kind you carry on your shoulder, will do the job for a few dollars more. And if you do not want to mix anything at all, I understand. Buy it ready-made. A can of fluid film or a jug of wool wax is the same lanolin idea, already thinned and ready to spray. It costs more than mixing your own, but it is still far cheaper than the shop, and it still beats the rubber. Buy the gallon jug, not the little aerosol cans, if you are doing a whole truck. It is a fraction of the price by the ounce. Before you spray a drop, a quick word on prep, because people overthink this part and talk themselves out of the whole job. You do not need bare, shiny metal. You do not need to sand anything. Knock the loose flakes and the caked-on mud off with a stiff wire brush and a scraper so the coating can reach the steel, and that is enough. Lanolin will even creep in under light surface rust and choke it off from underneath. Get the truck up safe first, on ramps or on jack stands, never on just a jack. Wear old clothes you are willing to throw away, gloves, and eye protection, because this drips and it gets everywhere and it does not wash out. Lay some cardboard on the floor. Keep it off your hot exhaust and off your brake rotors. And crack the garage door, because the mineral spirit smell is strong for a day or two until it flashes off. Step 4 is where you put it, and this is the part that matters most. Forget the flat underside for a minute. The magic is up inside. Every frame has little holes in it, drain holes, and rubber plugs. You pull the plugs, put the wand up into those holes, and coat the inside of the box where the rust actually lives. You hit every seam, every pinch weld, every spot where two pieces of metal meet. You spray your brake lines and your fuel lines end to end. And here is a bonus almost nobody thinks of. Lanolin does not carry electricity, so it is completely safe on your wiring. Spray the back of every electrical connector under there, the ones for your lights and your sensors, and coat the ground straps where they bolt to the frame. Those corrode from salt and cause half the strange electrical gremlins people chase for years. A little grease on those connectors saves you a world of trouble. The whole idea is simple. Do not just coat the parts you can see. Feed the parts you cannot. Step 5 is timing, and timing is easy. Do it once a year in the fall before the first salt truck rolls. That way the coating is fresh and creeping when the salt starts flying, not worn thin by summer. The whole job, once you have done it a time or two, takes about 45 minutes. Warm the mix, get under there, spray the rails and the seams and the connectors, and you are done for the year. Come spring, take a look, wipe a spot here or there, touch up any bare steel, and carry on. That is the entire maintenance. 45 minutes and $3 of grease against the one thing that scraps more good trucks than any engine ever did. Now let me step back, because this is bigger than one truck. Think about what a rotted frame really costs you. A good truck with 200,000 good miles left in the motor gets hauled to the scrapyard because the frame is soft. That is $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 of vehicle thrown away over rust you could have stopped with a tub of grease in one afternoon. And it is not only money. A rusted brake line is the one that lets go the day you need it most, going down a hill with your family in the seats. A rusted frame is the one that folds in a crash instead of holding. This is not about how the truck looks. This is about whether the truck is safe to drive and worth keeping. And a clean frame is money in your pocket the day you sell. Picture two trucks, same year, same miles. One has a frame you can still read the stamping on. The other is wrapped in flaking rubber and soft rot. The clean one sells in a weekend for top dollar. The other one sits, because every buyer who knows what to look for slides underneath, sees the rot, and walks away. So the $3 habit pays you back twice. Once in the repairs you never have to make, and once on the day you hand over the keys. And here's the part about the shops, and I will be fair because I am a mechanic myself in my own way. I am not against the trade. But you should know that up in Canada, where the salt is even worse than most of the states, there are whole chains of shops that do nothing but spray oil up inside people's frames every single year. Crown, Rust Check, big businesses that have been at it for decades. And what do they spray? Not the hard black rubber. A creeping oil. The same idea as the lanolin, because they know it is the only thing that actually works over the long haul. The part of the industry that takes rust seriously switched to the soft, creeping coating a long time ago. The hard rubber undercoating is what gets sold to the folks who do not know the difference. Now you know the difference, and once you know it, you cannot be sold the wrong thing again. Here's the thing my old friend told me that I have never forgotten. He said, "Steel does not want to rust. We make it rust by trapping the wet against it and walking away. Leave the water a way out, keep the metal a little bit fed, and steel will wait for you longer than you will be around to need it." That is the whole secret. You are not fighting rust. You are just refusing to trap the water. Do that one thing and the rest takes care of itself. So here's what I want you to do tonight. Take a flashlight and get down under your truck. Do not look at the flat parts. Look up inside the frame rails through the little holes. Feel the seams. Look at the electrical connectors and the ground straps. See what is already starting, because most people never have, and most people are surprised by what they find. Then this week, get yourself a tub of raw lanolin, or a can of fluid film if you would rather not mix, and a cheap spray gun. Warm your mix, spray the inside of those frame rails and every seam and every connector, and do it before the first salt hits the road this year. 45 minutes, $3 of grease, a truck that outlives the payments. Tell me in the comments below where you live, how bad the salt gets where you are, and how the frame looks under your own truck right now. Be honest, I read them. And tell me if you go out and feel up inside that frame rail tonight. Next time, I am going to show you the one seized bolt that turns a simple job into a $400 nightmare, and the dab of this very same grease that keeps it from ever seizing in the first place. It is the trick that has saved me more knuckles and more money than almost anything else I know, and hardly anybody does it. Until then, keep the water off your steel, and remember, the truck does not wear out. We let it rot. Do not let it rot.